WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Hello and welcome to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest this morning is Trenayce Talbert, the author of Doors of Light, The Awakening Has Begun, which was a bestseller on Amazon in 2017. She's the host of two podcasts, Awaken the Healing, Reclaim Your Life, and Awaken the Goddess. She's the creator of Awaken, The Healing Begins Now, a natural hair and body care line that raises your vibration and heals you through all natural, nutrient-rich ingredients. She's the owner and artistic director of Modern Belly Dance of Cleveland, a place where women of all ages can learn the power of healing through the ancient art of belly dance. She's been an ordained metaphysical minister since the year 2001 and has now established Awaken the Healing Ministries, which has ordained light workers around the world. This is a healing and teaching ministry that offers natural healing classes online. So you have quite a background. I didn't get to capture all of it, but I'm sure that we will get to it at some point in our conversation. But welcome to Open Door.
Thank you.
You know, I learned of you through a friend of mine who practices and teaches Qigong and other Eastern modalities. So the connection that you have with her is a natural connection in that you're kind of in similar areas. Let's talk about your history, because I like to do that with guests just to give perspective and relationship to the city of Cleveland. So tell us where you started out, and are you a product of Cleveland?
I am now, I guess you could say. But I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania, and I moved to Cleveland when I was 18 years old. Actually, just probably a couple months. I was 19 when I moved to Cleveland. My ex-husband is from Cleveland, and that's how I ended up here. But long story, many years of homeschooling my children, and while homeschooling my children, working on learning more and more about natural healing, studying herbology, homeopathy, kinesiology, all of those sorts of things, and becoming a naturopath. And during that time, of course, homeschooling, you got to figure out a way to make some money. And while you are homeschooling, this was full-time for me, and studying full-time. So it became a practice. People would ask me for assistance, and so that's how it really just started on its own. And I began to do private consultations, and it just blossomed into many different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your motivation to get involved in natural healing modalities?
To be honest, it was from the Nation of Islam. I was a member of the Nation of Islam, and studying the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad started me on this path. That is really my beginning. His book, How to Eat to Live, when I read those two books, it was very interesting to me. Lots of information I had never heard before, and that really started me to study more. And when I began to look into everything that he taught about our eating habits and how we were killing ourselves through the foods we were consuming, then it led to, of course, the nutrition, the herbology, then from there just down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
And talk about your study. You must have studied in a few different places, I would imagine.
Well, mostly my study was personal study. It was independent study. So, yes, I've studied many different forms of healing from all over the world. I've studied from different masters through their books. And I began to practice what I was learning. So I love history. So one of my I could say, one of the most important things to me is to teach history to my children and to anyone who will listen, because the ancients figured it out. The ancients really figured it out. And when I say ancients, ancient Egypt, ancient Mexico, these different cultures have figured it out, and that information has been lost over time. But now it's time for it to come back because humanity needs it more than ever.
Okay. Well, and I'm curious why you would say we need it more than ever.
Because of the loss of knowledge, we've lost consciousness, because consciousness is connected to knowledge. And we see the issues that we have in our society today is all due to ignorance. And the ignorance is self-destructive. So we become dependent on a medical society, a medical field that is financially based. The medicine is not for healing. The medicine is to keep you addicted and just to keep money coming in. It's a business. And I've seen this in my own practice over the last 30 years. I've helped more people that were, really believing that they could go to the doctor and get healing, but just found that that was not working. They were only getting worse. And the problem was with me being in naturopathic medicine is that people would come to me after they've had all their body parts removed, different surgeries. And it's really, at that point, it makes it more difficult for us to assist you because your body has those parts for a reason.
So you've identified a difference between an allopathic modicum and a natural modicum. Could you explain the difference between the allopathic approach and a naturopath's approach when it comes to healing and recovery from traumatic situations?
Well, the allopathic approach hasn't been based on healing. They study dead bodies. So you cannot learn how to heal from studying death. You must study living creatures in order to keep them alive. So the foundation of their medicine is all wrong. And this is why they can produce death so well. And every pharmaceutical drug out there has an LD50 rating, which is lethal dose 50%. If they cannot get an LD50 rating, they cannot make it a pharmaceutical. So this is an issue. Everything they give you can kill you. And when you begin to learn natural medicine, this is who you are, your frequency, your harmonics. Every cell in your body has its own frequency of healing. And I prefer Dr. Rife's study and research. And if people would go back and study Dr. Raymond Rife, then they would see that he came out with a frequency machine back in the 1920s. That was healing everything that you can imagine, including cancer, within 3-minute treatments in 3 days. People who were terminally ill were then with no symptoms after 3 days of 3-minute treatments. And this information has been just about wiped off the planet, but you can find it. In the 1930s, early 1930s, there was a big, huge party of the doctors, big doctors within this country, and schools of medicine, and they were awarding Dr. Rife with the accomplishment of finding the cure to disease. It was a party to end all disease and sickness. And then the day after that, it was an attack on him. That to this day, many people don't even know about him or his telescope or anything, the microscope, that he developed, the Rife microscope, that was able to actually see living viruses, which they still to this day can't do, because they kill everything before they begin to research it. But he was able to see the living virus and then create a frequency and watch it kill the virus. And this is how he came up with his frequency medicine.
It's really interesting when you point out that historical piece, because I'm also reminded of a period in history when they elevated doctors, the allopathic doctors, and then they kind of diminished all other doctors and discounted the whole idea of natural healing because pharmacies use a petroleum base to a lot of the
due
substances.
To the Rockefellers and the Carnegies.
Right. So tell us about how that happened and the impact of it.
Well, in the mid-1850s is when the AMA started. There were a lot of different medical associations in this country at that time. And, of course, herbology was the foundation of our medicine, natural medicine. And with the AMA, their goal was to become number one. And there was a lot of political levying throughout the late 1800s, and you could really see that because we were already into sound medicine, color and frequency medicine. And all of those things, you know, we have Tesla at that time. So Tesla and Rife were around at the same time. They got rid of that information because it was actually curing our ills of humanity, whether they be personal, health-wise, or our just need for petroleum and alternative forms like that where they're making money off of our electricity as opposed to free electricity tapping into the Earth's magnetic field.
Okay. So we have a kind of a disconnect between natural and unnatural, and I'm in this moment I'm thinking about Dr. Jennifer Daniels, who was into turpentine therapy and had a medical practice in which she was offering her patients a choice between pharmaceuticals or pine needle oil.
Oh, yeah.
And her patients started choosing pine needle oil, and as a result, the pharmaceutical sales from her office kind of dwindled, and the pharmaceutical reps got really concerned that she wasn't selling enough. Mm-hmm. Now she lives outside of the country because essentially she's been kicked out of the country because she was using natural methods from which patients were getting results, they were getting healing,
yes,
and they didn't have that dependency on drugs.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, we can't continue in this direction. This direction is going to wipe humanity out. We see it right now. So if people don't begin to wake up, that's my whole ministry is about awaken. Everything is awaken the healing, awaken everything. Because we need to awaken. We need to become conscious and aware of how to heal ourselves. We need to stop depending on these pharmaceutical companies and their businesses, which we call hospitals, because the pharmaceutical companies are backing the hospitals. And this is why all they do is push drugs on you. There's no true healing. They have a new drug for this, and that has 5, 6, 7 side effects. Then they give you another drug to counter those side effects. And so you have people who are taking handfuls of medication, and they're simply worse. You know, I feel this way. If hospitals were really doing the job they're supposed to be doing, you would not see them everywhere because people would be healthy and strong. But when they are creating more sickness, then they're building hospitals, more and more hospitals. It's more and more money. I'm not totally against allopathic medicine. I think their place is in emergency care. If you're in a car accident, something terrible happens to you, yes, you need emergency care. You need to be sewn up. You need to be, stop the bleeding. But after that point, that is it for their services, because they are not about healing. Everything that they give you after 10 days, a pharmaceutical drug is based on a 10-day treatment. After 10 days of that drug, there's severe side effects. And some drugs are immediate. But it's only supposed to be 10 days. You're supposed to take any pharmaceutical drug, not beyond that point.
I'm reminded of the film that Spike Lee did some time ago, School Days.
Yeah.
And there was a character in that film named Dap.
Yes.
And at the end of the film, he's shouting at the top of his lungs,
"Wake up.
Wake up, wake up." And now I'm kind of thinking that Trenayce is that person right now, but you're not shouting. It's kind of a quiet whisper.
Yes.
And an effective whisper,
yes,
delivering the message that people need to hear. Fascinating conversation. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest is Trenayce Talbert. She is an author, and she is a holistic practitioner, and we are peeling back the layers of the onion with the intention of bringing you information that will promote healing in your body. We'll be right back with more Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU right after this. What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others.
Armor up, armor up.
Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water. Give others space 6 feet just in case. Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion. Vitamin C, D3, and more. Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store. Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs. Let go of stress. Make sure you rest. Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19.
Armor up, armor up.
Hi, this is Wanda Harris from Warrensville Heights, Ohio, and you're listening to the best radio station in Cleveland, WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Trenayce Talbert, the author of Doors of Light, The Awakening Has Begun, a bestseller on Amazon in 2017, and sounds like it's a book that I need to have in my arsenal, especially if you give us some of those things that can promote healing in our body in different ways to get there. So we've kind of described the problem. I'd like to get to some solutions. So let's talk about the different things that you're involved in terms of facilitating healing in the body, the mind, and the spirit, because we know they all work together.
Yes, definitely. Well, first I'd like to go back to the book. Don't go on Amazon looking for the book because it's being sold for over $900 at this time. And believe me, I don't get any of that money. But after the first printing, it is now out of print. I canceled my contract with my publisher, which was located in London, England. And between them and Amazon, they were robbing me blind. So the book you can find on my website, awakenthehealing.com. And it's an ebook at this point. I haven't had it in print again. But you can get it $15 as opposed to $906 or $60, whatever the last number was on Amazon. Wow. They're literally selling at that price. So that's a compliment to me, but somebody's making a lot of money off of my book, and that's why I ended that contract. But for as far as me and what I offer for humanity, and my work is with humanity, and I've always felt that since I was a child. My work is to assist humans in becoming more conscious and aware of their own power. Their own power. We are remarkable beings. We are actually the beings that we haven't seen yet. We haven't seen a human yet. This is what Spirit tells me. Because we're still in our evolutionary state. And we've been stuck in this like caterpillar stage. Because our caterpillar stage has fed a lot of people. They're literally feeding off of us, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And as we continue to grow, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. But we are physical beings that must remember that we are spiritual. That are having this, illusion of a physical experience that we call life. And it's just where we come to work out all of our desires for growth. So while we're here, the main goal is to remember. We have amnesia. We must remember who we are. We are supernatural beings by nature. And we have the ability to heal ourselves. So outside of the use of herbology and frequency medicine and things of this nature, sound healing, we can heal ourselves by simply changing the way we think. We must remember who we are because the power of who we are is based within us, in our hearts. So we have to start to learn how to open our hearts again and heal. But because we are spiritual beings, we carry these frequencies of all the pain that we've carried with us from this life, from past lives. I'm also a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, so I assist people in their healing process in whatever way that needs to be done. So as we start energy work with you, there's so much that we can do with this life, with now. We begin to peel back the layers, like you said, on an onion. And then we find that some of your issues are based in other lives. So we have to take you back. So the past life regression that I do is pretty deep. It's based on Dolores Cannon technique. So in that regression, I'm just there as a medium, but your higher self takes you to the lives that you need to rediscover. You have some very profound breakthroughs, and it's anything but imaginary when you have grown men coming out in absolute tears because you feel it. You know you're there. You smell the air. You feel the heat of the sun. Wherever you're traveling, you're there. And you're having this experience. And then after that experience, we take you to your higher self. And we're able to ask your higher self, what did you experience that for? Why did they show you that life? And then they connect that pain or that trauma or whatever it is the lesson is. It doesn't have to be a negative experience. But most of the time we carry the negative because they're traumatic to our spirit forward into this life. But that higher self is able to show you the connection. And immediately people are healed from whatever it is that they're carrying. And I've seen physical healings, immediate physical healings, to emotional, psychological, whatever it is. People are absolutely transformed. Yes.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned Dolores Cannon because I found out about her a few years back, but I just couldn't remember her name. And from what I was seeing, she had an ability to enable someone to cure themselves of cancer by going into trance. There was so much that could be uncovered through those past life experiences that happened into trance. So could you talk a little bit more about how that works?
Well, we take you into a theta state of consciousness, and your theta state of consciousness is much deeper than the alpha. Most hypnotists take you into an alpha state, which you go into automatically, naturally, if you're just sitting still for 5 or 10 seconds sometimes. When you're sitting in front of a TV, you're in a trance state. So, as I was speaking to you earlier, people have been hypnotized through the television. But the trance that we take you into is theta. It is a natural state of consciousness. Everything is natural. People just aren't aware of it. Theta is the state you pass through right before you fall asleep and right before you wake up. And most people have their epiphanies, answers to questions, prayers, right before they wake up or right before they fall asleep. And that is the state where you're basically connected to your higher self. There's a clear communication. And this is where we intentionally take you there. Once you're in that state, you are not asleep. You are very much aware of where you are. You know that you're still here with me. Some people do actually lose their ability to connect to their now. And they're absolutely there. And they're so there that they wouldn't even know, if you mentioned their name, they wouldn't know who that person was. So that just depends on how easily people are hypnotized, and everybody's different. But for the most part, people are remaining more conscious these days. And they're aware of both. And this makes it even better, I think, because then you can't say, oh, I was asleep or I imagined that, because you're very much aware of this pictures and sounds and how this experience. Most people are really in amazement after they come out like, whoa, like what was that? You know, because they've never consciously dreamt. It's like dreaming while you're still awake. But you are really there. You have the memories of this person. You know exactly what's going on and how you got there. But I'll just tell you very briefly a very quick example of one of my clients. She had been diagnosed with MS, muscular sclerosis, since she was probably 17 years old. She had no feeling on her left side of her body her entire life. She never had any feeling. And she came to me. She wanted to dance. She wanted to be in my modern belly dance classes. And I told her, come and dance, and just don't push yourself, but allow your body to reconnect, because what it is a disconnect somewhere. So as she continued to dance, she wanted to learn more about the natural healing because she wanted to get off her medications. So I began to educate her and lead her to certain books and things to study. And she began to get off of more and more medications. Well, what she found is that she hadn't dreamt in years. No dreams because of her medications. And the more she was detoxing, the more she was able to dream again. And that is really deep, and we'll have to talk about that at another time. But dreaming is a key to your reality. And so she wanted even more healing. She said, Trenayce, I know that you know more. I want you to show me, teach me. I just want to know more. And so then I asked her, she had already been doing the meditation, so I had suggested to her, let's set up a quantum healing hypnosis session. So we did that. And she was one of those people who went very, very deep, very fast, and she would not have been able to connect to her now. When she was in that life, she was in that life. So she experienced some very traumatic lifetimes. She was in Germany. They were running from the Germans, her and her mother. She was obviously Jewish, and that was very traumatizing. She came back with that trauma in her. There were other traumas that were there, but the most traumatic one was that she was an Indian man from India. She was traveling to Great Britain to ask the king of Britain to remove the troops from India. So he was being sent there with other messengers. And on their travel back from Great Britain, there was an oxen in a cart. And the oxen was pulling the cart, and his arm got caught in the cart, his left arm, and it snatched the arm out of socket. And so immediately I knew when she was having this experience, the left side of her body had been numb without feeling her whole life because of this traumatic experience that she carried from this past life where she was an Indian man. And when we brought her back from that regression, well, we were able to go to her higher self, and her higher self connected the dots for us. But when she came out of the regression, she was able to feel on her left side. So she's had feeling ever since. And her healing, her story is so phenomenal because her entire life has changed. Her entire life has changed. She's an incredible dancer now. She wasn't able to dance. I mean, she was very off. Very awkward because she had no ability to sense her left side. And now she's just growing by leaps and bounds.
That's absolutely amazing. First of all, that you would have an awareness of something that happened to you in a previous lifetime. But secondly, the fact that you will be able to make that connection and then achieve such a drastic result as a result, a direct result of hypnosis.
Yes. It's powerful.
Yes. And I'm just wondering, why it is that the awareness or the knowledge of these types of procedures are not as widely known as they should be.
I think the more that people begin to seek real answers, then they find the solutions. I think you have to be a vibrational match to the answers. People are a vibrational match right now to fear. So their answers are giving them more fear, more problems. And once people really realize that we do have answers, God didn't leave us stranded on this planet. We came here with everything we need to heal ourselves and to heal our planet. So we are the ones, it's us that are going to heal the planet. We're not looking for angels to fall out of the sky. If we are the angels, then we are incarnated. It's us that's going to do this work. So as people are ready for true healing, then that's what I know. When people are guided to me, that they're ready and Spirit has sent them to me.
That's such an interesting thing to say, and I can see so much truth in it because, there's a saying that basically says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Exactly.
Some folks aren't ready, but the other thing that really resonates with me in this moment is what you identified in terms of hypnosis and how we're hypnotized, and the world is living in this place of fear right now, and that's really the most prevalent cause of death.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
You know where I'm going with it.
Yes.
But it's just so important for us to be connected and to understand how much of a role that we have in our own healing. I'm reminded of the fact that some say that 80% of the things that people go to the doctor for would heal on their own if they just allowed their body to do what a body naturally does. So we're going to conclude this segment with that thought. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Trenayce Talbert, author and holistic practitioner. So many different modalities that she's into, and we're going to discuss some of those things when we continue. We'll be right back on 95.9 FM, WOVU, a Burton-Bell Car community radio station. Back in a minute.
Are you or someone you know in need of help? Here's a resource you can turn to.
The Thea Bowman Center has been serving the community for over 50 years and provides services to help support Mount Pleasant and surrounding communities of all ages. Some of these programs include adult education like GED, computer classes, food pantry, senior outreach, youth after school, and summer programs, and much more. Are you a Cleveland resident in need of a GED preparation, a food pantry, youth or senior programs? Then call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit TheaBowmanCenter.org. Call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit TheaBowmanCenter.org to register today.
This message is brought to you by the Thea Bowman Center and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton-Bell Car community radio station.
You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Trenayce Talbert, holistic practitioner and author of Doors of Light, The Awakening Has Begun, which is available on her website. So don't go to Amazon, because I know you don't want to spend $900 on this book, especially since she ain't getting that $900.
Thank you.
We want Trenayce to get paid. So give us that website for folks who are interested.
AwakenTheHealing.com.
AwakenTheHealing.com. Go there and get The Awakening Has Begun. So in a previous segment, we were talking about the power of hypnosis, and we were visiting this whole idea that you can go to previous lifetimes and learn things about yourself that will enable you, once addressed, to have some type of healing process and recovery. We also talked about, and I'm so glad that you reminded me of her name, Dolores Cannon.
Yes.
I would invite you to visit YouTube.
Yes.
Look up Dolores Cannon, hear some of those stories. I mean, this woman had people all over the world lined up to get to her.
Yes.
And she couldn't possibly get to all these folks. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I don't even want to try to imagine what it would be like to have that many people knocking on my door saying, help me. But you're kind of in a similar space. And I imagine that, you know, after people find out about this, if they're really serious and they're ready, then they will pursue some of the things that you are able to offer them. So talk about some of the other things. You use sound therapy.
Yeah, sound healing is very profound. I use it in different forms. So I use singing bowls, I use tuning forks, and I also use frequency medicine. I have a Dr. Rife machine, a machine that's not the pure Dr. Rife, the Rife machine, because that's based on photonic energy as well as plasma and frequencies. But I have two separate machines that I use, and one is photonic energy and harmonics, which are already tuned into that. It's basically programmed with over 4,000 frequencies in that machine. And that's Ed Skilling. If you know anything about Ed Skilling Institute, you can look that up. That's the Photogenie and the Photon Genie. And then I have a harmonic frequency machine that is just pure frequencies based on Dr. Rife's frequencies, and that machine is amazing. Both of them together, I think every person needs to have a frequency machine, period, point blank. And there's many, many out there on the market. People are making a lot of money off Dr. Rife's frequencies, and they're selling them for thousands and thousands of dollars, $20,000, $30,000, and you get 3 frequencies to start with, and then if you want to add on, it's a la carte. But I actually work with a scientist out of Canada who developed a machine. This has been his life mission. That is pure frequencies based on Dr. Rife. He also has Dr. Hilda Clark's information in there. This machine is incredible. And if anybody is interested in getting more information, he will sell that machine to anyone that I refer to him, and it's under $1,000.
It's under $1,000.
Under $1,000, and it's incredible. And there's over 3,000 frequencies in there. Yes.
Okay.
And everyone that I put on that machine, they want their own machine afterward. After 30-minute treatment, they're like, where can I get this? Yeah. It's incredible. So in my healing practice, I've use all these different tools because we need all these different tools. People are in really bad shape today. And we need to find the healing frequencies, because if we don't do that, what we have to realize is that we are made of frequency and vibration. Everything is frequency and vibration. And once your frequency gets out of tune, you know, you're a musician, so you know all about it. You're playing with the orchestra and all the instruments are out of tune. So that's going to be horrible. That's going to sound horrible. Well, that's what your body sounds like when there's dis-ease in the body. Once one cell goes out of tune, it's just natural for the other cells to reharmonize it. But what has happened, we are living in an environment that is constantly bombarding us with different frequencies that are absolutely dysfunctional for our body to be around. And it causes dis-ease because we are not reminding our bodies of our natural harmonics. So there's many different things, and that's why I teach the natural healing holistic living classes, to teach people how to go about bringing the harmonics back. Because it is not just one thing. It's physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And many of the foods that we are eating are extremely, extremely poor choices for us to consume in our bodies. And that's really the foundation. If we can change our diet, because the level of consciousness that you can carry in your body is determined by your diet. So if you do not change your diet, then you cannot raise your consciousness, but to a certain level. We cannot continue to eat dead foods and think that we're going to find life in that. So we have to move back into living alive foods, things that are full of life and sun. So the sun is what feeds us. Our body literally eats light. It consumes the light out of the food. That's what it's extracting, is light. So the more that a food grows, the higher it grows, like on a tree, fruits and vegetables. But vegetables literally ground you, and fruits raise your vibration. So the higher the tree, the more sun it gets, and the higher vibrating that fruit is for your body. So there's been a very poor campaign against, or I should say it's been a very effective campaign, but it's been bad information on, first of all, sunlight, which is heliotherapy, which is extremely ancient. It is taught in the ancient schools of Egypt, heliotherapy. The Greeks took that information and then began to teach it as well. So if you go and study heliotherapy, it's all about sun healing, how you sit in the sun. And not so much, you don't have to be directly in the sun. You can sit in a shady spot, but you just need to be outside and where the rays, the UV rays, can reach you. The sun in the morning is the most healing rays of the sun. And we have become used to watching sunsets, and that's actually the most dysfunctional rays of the sun. And you just see how everything has been inverted in society. We're not getting up watching sunrises, which are the most healing for us. We're watching sunsets. And it's the time when the sun is setting, and it's the most destructive actual UV rays that come at that time come through. It's many, many things, many facets. But it's a lack of education, basically. We've just been very poorly educated. And it's on purpose. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So there's an optimal time for light to do what it can do for you, and we kind of default to sunsets because they're just so dramatic and so forth. I know as a photographer, I photograph sunsets all the time. You know, I'm beginning to become known for shooting sunsets. I've shot a few sunrises when I was in Egypt and Sudan a couple years back, when I was in Panama a few years before that, and I don't know why, but it was just so much easier for me to get up early in the morning, and I was excited about being able to capture a sunrise. So you're gonna instigate some change in this life right now. Now that you're sharing that with me.
Yes.
I also wanted to talk about what you mentioned about the cellular level and the things that we put in our body, because I'm just thinking about those pharmaceutical substances that cause all those different side effects. And so how we exist in a state of dysfunction because we're feeding our bodies the wrong things, and we have those things affecting us on a cellular level, preventing our healing and preventing our mental and spiritual acuity as well.
Yes, definitely. If you think about you are what you eat, literally, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, one thing that I have to stress is I know we love our meat. People love to eat their meat. But you have to become conscious of the fact that that was a living creature. It has emotions. And when that creature experiences death, the memory of death is now within the cells, the flesh that you're eating. So however that animal was treated in its life, the same way that you carry spiritual trauma, the animal carries spiritual trauma in its energy body. And we're consuming that energy. So people are walking around, depression is huge, paranoia is huge. All these different forms of psychosis that we consider psychosis is very huge, anxiety. And it's literally a big reason for that is from eating meat. When you stop eating meat, then slowly but surely all that anxiety and depression and things, it just starts to like melt. And you start saying, well, I don't feel so anxious anymore. I don't feel depressed. You're really eating that of the animal. The animal has been depressed. The animal is full of anxiety when it knows I'm next. You know, it's watched Susie and Bob and whoever get snatched off and didn't come back. And these animals are very much aware. If you have a cat or a dog, you know how much they're aware of what's going on. So now you're talking about much larger animals that are much more conscious of their surroundings and what's going on. So they're living in fear their entire lives because they know they're going to be wiped out, turned into food or whatever. But then you don't know what's going on where they are. They're being beaten and mistreated, and all of that's trauma. And I believe at some level this has been done on purpose so that we would consume that food and we become that creature.
Just a thought.
Yes.
Because I've thought about the fact that black folk like chicken so much, all right?
Yeah.
But then I think about the nature of the chicken. You know, when somebody says to you that you're scared of something, they say, oh, you chicken.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So we have so much chicken in our lives, but then we deal so much with fear. And then I'm reminded about all the dialysis centers that are in our communities, and the fact that the kidney is the organ that we express fear through. So
your kidneys literally are your life force. That's where the center of your life force is. When your kidneys go, you see the legs go right after it, the weakening in the legs. Your legs are your connection to the earth. When your legs become weak, that's a sign of death. So the kidneys are under attack on purpose because this is the seat of our life forces in our kidneys. And many of the different pharmaceutical drugs attack the kidneys and the liver. You see that. I mean, it's on the, if you all read those little pamphlets that come with it, they attack the kidneys and the liver. The kidneys are literally the seat of your life force in your body. Not to say that your heart and everything, but to say that there are different locations in the body where the life force manifests and where it is stored. And of course you cannot live without your heart. But each organ has a very profound purpose, and each organ not only has a physical purpose, but it has a metaphysical purpose. And so this is an attack on your life force.
Okay. We got just a few more moments before we go to the break, but I'm just mindful of the appendix and how appendixes get removed
all the time, and gallbladders. Yes. Those are more of your spiritual, those are more of your alchemic. Those, not to say they do have physical purpose for being in your body, but they are there for your transformation, for your alchemy.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that profound. I know someone that just had an appendix removed, and I'm always a little skittish about, taking something out that has a purpose, but that's the allopathic method.
Oh, they take everything out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to get back to more of this interesting discussion when we return. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. We're speaking with Trenayce Talbert, holistic practitioner and author. We'll be right back, right here on 95.9 FM WOVU.
WOVU listeners, did you know you can call us during any live show? Did you know you can ask questions or give your comments live on the air? If you didn't know, now you know. Call the WOVU request line at 216-271-0959. Your voice is our request. No one says it like you. You're better than the rest. Call us 216-271-0959. Questions, comments, complaints. We want all that and the kitchen sink. This is WOVU. Our voices united. We can't do it without you. Call on through.
WOVU LP Cleveland. We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, I want to call you Doctor. And
it is Doctor, actually.
Okay. All right.
Doctor.
Well, Dr. Trenayce Talbert, all right. And you are dropping some real science on us, but also, food for thought. We've talked about the importance of food, and you dropped something on us about fruits and vegetables, the vegetables being grounding and the fruits and what they do for you spiritually. This is just absolutely amazing. And I know that there are probably people who are listening right now who are saying, now, wait a minute now, I can't give up my ribs. I can't give up my steak. You trying to tell me that if I'm eating these things that it's going to somehow injure me spiritually? But, the fact is the animal did go through what the animal did. And, epigenetically, we carried the trauma of our ancestors with us. So why would that animal be any different?
Thank you.
So talk about the things that we should be eating. And we've been kind of broad in terms of fruits and vegetables. But let's talk about the broader scope of diet and beneficial things that we can ingest to improve our health.
At this point, most people's digestion is extremely poor because our eating habits have been so bad that we have extremely poor digestion. So that means if you are consuming anything, you are not absorbing it into the body. It's not being broken down and absorbed. And then not to mention the backup in the bowels. So that's another issue. And when you get into that, then you get into the parasites and the fungus and all of these things. We need to be detoxing. Our diets need to be very strong detoxing, very alkaline diets because we're extremely acidic. We consume things that turn directly into acid in the body. Another thing that's a problem is the coffee. Now, I totally believe in letting people change their diet slowly. I don't believe in anything fast and furious because you won't keep it. You won't continue to do it. But you need to be changing little by little. And some things that are extremely detrimental to your health, you need to be trying to get away from that immediately. And coffee is one of them. Now, coffee is therapeutic if it's used once in a while. Some people's bowels move because of coffee. But again, that's going to be a pure coffee. That's not all this chemicals added to the coffee bean. It's organic, and it's something you do every now and then. It's an herb. It's an herb, and it can be healing in small doses and used for the proper purpose. But when we start using something every day, then it's no longer medicinal. It's no longer therapeutic. Now we're abusing it, and it becomes an acid in the body. So you can overdo herbs just like you can overdo anything. We can drink too much water and kill ourselves because we flush all of our salts from our body. So we have to learn how to be conscious of what we're consuming, and we need to eat more living foods. So that means things straight off of the vine And, of course, we were at the grocery store purchasing most of our fruits and vegetables. But it is nice to know that we do have our local farmers in the areas. Start going to them more because these are going to be much more fresh fruits and vegetables for you. Not only that, because you live in a certain area, your environment, the structure of your body is structured by your environment. So these fruits and vegetables are more harmonic to your own environment because they're being grown around you. And the coffee is very acidic. So what you want to start learning about, if you really want to start educating yourself as a listener, as someone who's trying to grow and become more conscious of your diet, study alkaline acid balance. It's supposed to be 80-20, 80 alkaline, 20 acid. Well, most of us are 80 acid, 20 alkaline, if you get any alkaline at all. But the thing about coffee is that 1 cup of coffee is so acidic that it takes 20 cups of an alkaline to just bring you back to a neutral point. That's how acidic it is in the body. So acid is low voltage. So if we take alkalinity and we turn it into voltage, which is hydrogens, okay? This is getting a little more scientific, but this is where we have to go. This is why we have to, raise our consciousness and our education level, because we have to understand what's going on in our body. We all have a body, but nobody knows how it works. So this is a problem. People do more research on a cell phone before they go buy it. But we have bodies and we need to know how they work. So what you need to understand is that in order to have a higher alkalinity, you need to have more hydrogens in the body. So that means free electrons. So where do we get free electrons from? We get free electrons from the earth when we ground ourselves, when we take our shoes off, when we reconnect to the earth. There's also earthing mats that I was sharing with you earlier. If you haven't seen the movie, the Earthing movie, look it up on YouTube and watch the Earthing movie. Go to earthing.com and get yourself some earthing mats, and you're going to see the healing is miraculous. What we think as miracles happens through simply getting free electrons in the body. Things that rob electrons drop our voltage, which causes acidity. So we don't want to consume things that are dropping the voltage, that are causing acidity in the body, because that's a state of death. The state of death, acidity is natural in that state because the body is breaking down. This is when the organs have to melt away and go back into their simple form. But while we're living and we need our bodies, we need to be alkaline, we need to be in a state of health. So if your body is at least 7.2 in alkalinity, then there is no such thing as disease. Disease cannot exist in your body. No fungus, no viruses, bacteria, they cannot live in an alkaline environment. They thrive in an acidic environment because they're created by nature in order to break the systems down. They're part of the other side of the life, our circle of life. Things have to live and die. And so they're part of that decomposition of the body. But we need our bodies, so we don't need to be decomposing while we're still walking around. So we need to be conscious of the alkaline acid. We need to be conscious of free electrons. We need to be conscious of grounding, getting ourselves grounded outside, touching Mother Earth. Once again, when you're walking around with rubber shoes, you are not grounded. Your house needs to be grounded. Why don't you need to be grounded? There's all these microwaves and EMFs going through the air. We're using cell phones. We're really killing ourselves with all this technology. And when you start grounding yourself and you start eating right and you start getting more of the oxygen in your body, and your body can't hold oxygen when you're acidic. It turns into alcohol. Everything turns into alcohol in your body. So you're chemical. You're made up of chemicals, and it's a chemical process going on all the time in the body. So this is why we need to know more. But even the simplest information, just try to eat more fruits and vegetables. And when I say that, try to eat more local, more fresh, and drink more water.
Okay,
yes,
let's talk
water.
about the water, because you dropped one on me before we started this interview, and I had never heard of it, but I'm like, I got to get me some of that.
Yes.
Talk about the water and what kinds of water we should be drinking and not drinking, because I know that some water is extremely acidic and doesn't promote that 7.2 balance that you spoke of.
Right. Well, there's lots of water machines out there today, and I would just be very thorough in my research and finding a good water machine. But even if you have a water machine, something to clean your water, I would suggest that you get elite shungite. Shungite is a stone that comes out of Karelia, Russia. And it's a stone, it's actually a meteor, and it's only found in that part of the world. And there's actually a big lake that it comes out of. And it purifies the water. So there's much research out there to back what shungite does. But it stops your body from being able to absorb radiation. So the people who lived in the area where the Chernobyl accident took place in Russia, and if anybody was around in the 80s and remembers that, the horrible meltdown of Chernobyl, many millions of people are affected to this day by that. But there are people who actually lived in an area that it didn't affect. And we never heard about it. Isn't that interesting? It's always hidden information out there. But as you do your own research and as you stumble upon different people, I deal with people from around the world, so it makes it easier to get information that's kind of without help from us. But there's people, whole communities that were not affected by Chernobyl. And no one understood, the scientists did not know why they weren't affected, why they weren't killed, why they weren't maimed, why they weren't deformed, why they didn't suffer at all. And it's because they were drinking from this source of water that has shungite in the lake. But it took many years of research, and it was really by accident that they even figured it out, what it was. But it was a different structure of water, so it's not H2O. When you soak your water in this shungite, it changes the structure. So it may be H3O. It's different forms of water. Just like when you put your water into a microwave, it's no longer water. It's called an unknown liquid because it changes the structure of it. So if you have microwaves, you need to get rid of them. They're poisoning you. And all these things are promoted because many people are making trillions off of sick people. And that's where the money is in keeping you sick. But this is why it's time for humans to awaken and begin to take their power back and begin to educate themselves. I homeschool my children. Every last one of them. I have 3 children from start to finish, 23 years. Believe me, when I started that venture, I didn't know I was going to have 3 children. But there was no way I was going to send them to school because I saw, I'm not from Cleveland, I'm from a small town. And when I came here, my ex-husband, he was a school teacher. And when I saw the conditions of the schools, I said, how are they teaching children under these conditions? The schools are falling in, the ceilings are falling in, and I just didn't understand. But no books, children couldn't take books home. It was just no way to learn, and not to mention the behavior issues in the classroom. But we saw that. We agreed, my husband and I, that we were not going to send our children to school. And then I end up doing all the work, right? But he was supportive. But it was a long journey. And my children have had an amazing education. They all started college at 15. And they were the top of their class. They all graduated. They all have college degrees. So they're a part of the society, and they're an absolute incredible part of the society. They're bringing this consciousness to other children their age. They're young adults now. So.
And I know definitively that all 3 of them know how their body works.
Yes.
We have just a few more moments left, and I wanted to dive into this concept of scalar energy that you introduced me to. But unfortunately, we don't have time. So I'm going to have you back so we can talk about that and a few other things. But once again, remind folks how they can get your book. Tell us the title and your website and how they can take advantage of that.
You can find my book on my website at awakenthehealing.com. The book is Doors of Light. It is an e-book there, so it will be downloaded. I suggest that people print it off so they have a physical copy. When you get it, you are going to want to print it off. You're not going to want to lose that book. And it's an incredible map to help you with your awakening. These are for people who are becoming spiritually aware and want to understand how are they creating their life.
That's a good place to end our conversation for now.
Yes.
But we're coming back because the world needs to know about Dr. Trenayce Talbert. We're going to raise that vibration so that we can affect the frequencies of others who need to vibrate at a higher level. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson right here on 95.9 FM. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day. Peace.